and it just gonna take us longer. We wanted to get home early, be able to relax and get our head wrapped around. We got to go to work tomorrow,
Yeah.
you know. But and we like going out. I like going out of Newark for most of our flights because it's only 45 minutes versus going to Philadelphia. You
Yeah.
know,
Ours was nice going out of ABE though.
it is. It is nice. We went out of there the last time when we got Legion,
Yeah.
but we didn't get a Legion this time. We could have got a United, but we would have had to go into Chicago and then over to Florida
Oh.
with a 2 hour wait. You know, instead of direct flight. You know what I mean?
Okay, we're
So
streaming. Never mind, Kenny. No more.
okay. Did the grandkids like the read?
Pardon?
The grandkids like it and everything?
Okay, they're coming in, Kenny. Hang on.
Okay.
How are you? How you doing? How are you? No. So that is what it is.
Something in your mailbox in in our office then.
Oh,
Yes. Okay. There we go. It is. Yeah. I'll go afterwards. I'll unlock it because I just the people walking back and forth. Yeah. Okay, Joel not coming tonight? Oh. Your message about
but yeah, he told me. But it is out there gross. Your best bet is there's nothing, no question.
Lewis, are you supposed to call Ken, or are we supposed to?
Kenny's online.
Oh, he's online? Okay.
Kenny, everybody's here if you want to say hello.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, Ken.
Mayor.
Say hi to Mickey.
Mayor.
Mickey costs too much.
I don't know anything. I didn't hear from Jim.
Either.
You came anyway, Jeremy. Thought you said this morning you weren't coming.
No, I said I was gonna.
Oh, you did? All right.
think I was here at all last month, but I gotta show up every once in a while. Proof of life, you know.
Good call.
Yeah.
Actually closed because everything's gone.
We'll call the stated session of City Council order. Please rise for the invocation, followed by the pledge of the flag. First, let us say thank you for the many abundant blessings. Thank you for life itself, for our health, for providing subsistence, and for friendship. Thank you for the ability to be involved in this useful work of serving our residents. Thanks as well for the freedom to embrace you or the freedom to reject you. Tonight we ask that you look over our less fortunate, especially our homeless, who bear the burden of cold nights. Also, we ask that you look after our elderly, many of whom are struggling to meet their financial needs. And tonight, we also pray for one of our own, who recently passed. Watch over Amy Groover, our animal control officer. She worked so hard and treated our stray dogs as they were her own. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America.
United States of America.
And
To the republic for which it
one
stands,
nation, under
one
God,
nation, under
indivisible,
God,
with liberty and
indivisible,
justice for all.
liberty, and for all. Amen.
Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Okay. Mr. Brown?
Here.
Mr. Ettinger? Mr. Milan?
Here.
Mr. O'Connell?
Here.
Dr. Ruggles?
Here.
Mrs. Sultana? Mayor Pianto?
Here. Approval of the agenda? Move to approve. Second.
Move to approve.
Moved and seconded. Roll call, Madam. Any additions or changes to the agenda? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Mr. Milan?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell?
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles?
Aye.
Mayor Pianto?
Aye.
And Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Action on our minutes of November 22nd.
Move the minutes.
Second. Moved and seconded. Any additions, deletions, or corrections? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Mr. Milan?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell?
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles?
Aye.
Mayor Pianto?
Aye.
And Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Madam Clerk, you want to read the consent agenda?
Public comment first?
Oh, public comment. Anyone in the audience like to address the items on the agenda? At the end of the meeting, there is a time to address any concerns of the city of Easton as well. Seeing none, we're going to go on to consent agenda.
Okay, under consent agenda, we have a resolution that would accept the redevelopment assistant capital program grant, where they're going to take two grants and mold it into one, and in the amount of $5,500,000. We have a resolution also to approval to apply for a COVID-19 ARPA Pennsylvania Small Water and Sewer Program grant in the amount of $150,000. We have a resolution also authorizing the application for a grant for COVID-19 ARPA H2O Pennsylvania Water Supply, Sanitary Sewer, and Stormwater Grant in the amount of $1 million. We have a resolution appointing Mr. Robert McDonald, I really apologize, to the Environmental Advisory Council. I know, that's so bad. I sincerely apologize to Mr. McDonald. And a resolution where the city we're condemning and rejecting anti-Semitism.
We're not rejecting it.
Well, it says in here, condemning and rejecting.
We're condemning it.
Yeah.
And rejecting it.
Yeah, isn't that what I said?
No, you said condemning and,
Oh, geez. It's a bad day already.
oh, did she? Okay.
So that's the consent agenda.
I'll move the consent agenda.
Thanks, Dave.
Second. Moved in second discussion. I just want to say we've been very successful on our RCAPs over the last few years, and this is very going to help us. The two bookends, as we call them, projects that will start next year, both of them have seen tremendous increases and have gone up because of the supply chain and inflation, and the rates have obviously have gone up as well. Roll call.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Milan?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell?
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles?
Aye.
And Mayor Pianto?
Aye. There's no reports received by council, so we'll go right into committee reports. Vice Mayor Brown.
Thank you, sir. I have an unfinished business this evening. I have bill number 32 approving the 2023 budget. Bill 33, which is approving the tax rate for 2023. And bill number 34, amending the 2023 general fund budget. And also this evening I will be introducing bill 36, amending the chapter 285 fees, and also bill 38, amending the 2022 Recreation Fund budget. That's my report for this evening.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Economic Development Committee,
Taiba.
Taiba Sultana. She's not here. We'll move on to her.
That's me.
Point.
I'm economic development.
I know.
I'm sorry.
I
Hold
know.
on.
All right.
Go ahead, Mr. O'Connell.
All right, I'm sorry. I just wanted to say that on December 9th, the Housing Development Corporation transition team met here at City Hall to hear proposals from two different consultants who will be helping to establish a nonprofit for the housing, a nonprofit housing development corporation. The members of that transition team are Roger Ruggles, Mayor Panto, myself, Neil Copeland, Alyssa Barada, and John Kingsley, and I believe, and Shakira Martindale, excuse me. And we had a very productive meeting and heard two different consultants. And we chosen one, I don't know if it's appropriate to say now. I believe we'll be choosing Hailstone Economics to help us develop the nonprofit corporation. Thank you very much, Mayor. That's my report.
Okay, Planning and Code's not here. Public Safety, Councilman Ruggles.
I have no report tonight.
Public Works, Councilman Edinger's not here. Administration, Councilman Milan.
I have nothing, Mayor.
Report of Solicitor, Mr. Shear.
Yes, thank you. City Council did meet immediately prior to discuss certain potential real estate action involving potential acquisition of real estate.
Okay, Mayor's report. Just want to say that we have Lance Wheeler from Westward Wise who sold mums at a reduced rate at the Centennial Park lots. He is now selling Christmas trees at $30 each, which is about $40 or more less than what there's a going rate. The average rate in the Lehigh Valley is $69.95. This Friday, I want to remind City Council is Employee Appreciation Luncheon. It'll go from 11:30 to 1:30. The Winter Village update. Other than the weather, everything is going very well. All of the construction is done. The sound system for the circle has arrived. You may remember that it was the speakers came in, but they were white. They needed to be black, so they were sent back. We did get the new speakers, so that should hopefully be going in. Dave Phillips of Phillipsburg will be putting them in hopefully next week. I think we have a really interesting entertainment coming in on Sunday, thanks to Louis Campos and Deputy Fire Chief Chad Groover, and working with the administration and the Winter Village Committee. At 2 o'clock, we will have the Bach Choir of Bethlehem fame in the circle. They will do a 45-minute presentation of holiday songs, and I would hope that we have a big crowd for them because this is the first time they ventured into Easton, and we're looking forward to that.
Is that Saturday or Sunday, Matt?
Sunday. And we're also looking, Mr. Campos, why don't you talk about Heritage Day?
As the mayor pointed out, first of all, Chad Groover, Deputy Chief Chad Groover, is on the board for the Bach Choir, and he has some family ties there. So he's served. He's been serving there for a couple of years, I believe, if not more. And when he came into the position as Deputy Chief, he asked me if it was okay to continue to be on the Bach Choir. I told him that not only is it okay, but we encourage our employees to serve and volunteer on boards, etc. It's good for many reasons, but when he said that, I said not only are we is it a positive thing, but we'd like to invite him into Easton to do some sort of performance. Anyway, it turns out that they had a strategic plan to get out of Bethlehem, so to speak, and look to be a Lehigh Valley type choir, not just associated with Bethlehem. And as a result, they're going to be performing this weekend on Sunday, as the mayor had said. And also, just so you know, many of the choir members, there are quite a few choir members that are from Easton as well. So in the discussion when we found out that they wanted to expand into Easton, they also suggested doing other performances. So from a high level, we talked about uh, emulating performances that's done in Europe, in Germany in particular, where there's performances held in churches and they're open to the public. We're discussing the idea of having a performance, professional performance, during Heritage Festival where it would be open to the public. The reason why we talked about Heritage Festival, for obvious reasons, with heritage and the history as a theme, and I think it matches nicely with the Bach Choir, etc. But because then you have a lot of visitors in town, so we know that it can be successful by filling up the churches and the pews, etc. So that's the idea, Mayor. And there's more to come, but we're just at a high level right now, and it would be great if council could show up with the mayor and welcome them to the city of Easton.
What time are they here Sunday?
2 o'clock.
2 o'clock, and it's a 45-minute presentation.
Okay.
And the mayor, just so it is a traditional holiday songs, but in addition, they'll be playing also certain German classics.
Also tonight, I'd like to thank the Friends of Easton, Pennsylvania, and also Councilmember Ruggles and Councilman O'Connell for attending the Southside Lighting last Friday night. Was very good, very well attended. It was a really nice event, and the Friends of Easton provided that. So going up Southside Hill, Smith Avenue, as it is personally known, but it is more affectionately known as Southside Hill. The trees that are there are lit. The ones that we replaced this year are too small to put lights on, so they're not lit yet. But the trees going up are lit. On the left side, on the right side is the red lights, and the uplighting on the trees going all the way up the median. So we appreciate Friends of Easton, or the same group that did the ones downtown. The last thing I would remember, I did attend the Project Hope dinner on Sunday. I want to thank the police officers and fire department for showing up. They did a great job. It, again, was unfortunately a drive-through. Was held at Our Lady of Lebanon Church Hall. It's put on primarily by Dr. Walker and his wife Stan Walker and Judy, and their volunteers. And they have a wonderful group of volunteers. Judy Walker herself wrapped 425 presents for the kids. That's a lot of presents. And they served 668 people a hot meal, a bag of groceries, scarves, hats, and gloves for the kids, and then there was also a clothing drive outside, predominantly of winter coats that they could go through and buy and not buy but get for free. So it's been very successful, and unfortunately, I can remember when it was 350 people. Now it's 668. So it's the need is growing, and I'm glad that Dr. Walker is doing it in Easton. Moving on, we'll go to the report of City Administrator, Mr. Campos.
Just a couple of things to highlight since we last met. Myself and also the Recreation Director met with the Athletic Director of Lafayette College and presented a formal plan. I had mentioned that in prior reports that the city was proposing a more robust recreation program with Lafayette's support. So I will tell you that they're very supportive, and they were very, very receptive to our ideas. So this would include continuation of volleyball clinics for girls from middle school through high school, clinics that we've held there, and then also basketball. So middle school programs that would include like a March Madness tournament, if you will, so we could get teams from the Saints and other area teams involved. In the summer, we would look to augment our lacrosse programs and look to work with the football team, and as well as basketball and volleyball in utilizing their sports, at least getting the youth onto college campus and just augmenting our current programs. We do have teams already in the city that we wanted to offer a little bit more programming year-round. So I thought that went extremely well. I also am talking right now, thanks to Dr. Ruggles, with the sales on potentially bringing in some sort of e-sports program or clinic, if you will, into the city of Easton. I'm in talk from a high level with the Boys and Girls Club, Dean, to potentially collaborate with the sales and do some sort of learning experience on where esports can take you academically and also as a career or in general. So there's a lot going on there, and it's really cutting edge. And I think it's something that certainly we could get students or youth involved in now and get them interested in the potential of what esports can bring to you both academically and professionally. That's it, Mayor.
Very good. Esports is the next rising star. It's amazing. There's some cities who have esports stadiums, so it's amazing. There's no correspondence. We'll move right on to unfinished business, Madam Clerk.
We have bill number 32 being introduced by Mr. Brown, it was introduced by Mr. Brown, and it's going to be voted on tonight. It's approving the 2023 budget.
Move.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion.
I have some questions, Mayor. Was there any, after our last budget hearing, did we ever get any more definitive answers about the EIT that we discussed? Did you guys ever reach out to, not Berkheimer, is it No.
Keystone.
Keystone?
We did reach out to Keystone, and I thought I provided council with just historical information.
Well, you did, and I asked you for a follow-up on the census, on the number of people that are actually contributing to that EIT number.
I don't believe that they ever got back to me with that.
Okay. And so are we're still comfortable with the number that's going to go up by $2 million next year, which again equates to $122 million in increased wages. You guys are comfortable in that? I mean, it's a big number. I mean,
I think we put together the methodology, I guess, if you will, and how we got there. So it's up to council on whether or not you feel comfortable with the number.
I mean, I know I'm asking you for what your opinions are. Like 34% increase in wages next year. Like we have to quantify that. I think that's what I'm trying to really fathom when I debate this budget.
When you say that, is that 34% over what our budgeted line is this year?
Yeah.
Okay. But our budgeted line this year, we're going to exceed.
That's right.
Correct.
Yeah, we're looking
So
at.
gonna
It's
be a
not. We're not looking at.
30% increase.
That's correct. It's
Well-
not. It's not a budget to budget comparison. You got to look at it from a budget to actual, because the new normal is the actual.
Right.
Right.
But
So that's so
So
from
we
that.
went up by $1 million this year, right?
That,
I mean,
right. So the increase is not 34%.
Right.
The increase is more of a 9%. It's an 8 to 9% increase, and based on a lot of different factors, we still feel comfortable with that number.
But you do realize, like, the net the gross increase is like over $120 million in increased wages next year. That's how it equates down to the $2 million.
So it's, as I said, and as Dr. Ruggles pointed out, you have to look at the actual. So it's there's certainly an increase in salaries in the city of Easton, and I think that's a part of inflation, payroll inflation, but also it's a part of the changing demographics in the city.
Okay. And the fact that we're using ARPA money in next year's budget, when does that go away?
I think we have till 2026 to.
Correct. It's got to be spent by
So we have
26.
3 years of ARPA money in the budget, and after 2026, that money goes away then.
So what exactly, Mr. Milana, what's your concern?
Well, my concern is we're using money that's going to be gone in 3 years. And we have to replace that in 3 years at some point.
So not necessarily, that's not exactly how it works. So you have a combination of both one-time expenses, and then you also have lost revenue, replacement of lost revenue. So the idea on the lost revenue is that revenue is going to come back, and we're seeing examples of not only that it's coming back, but it's coming back a lot stronger than it was before. We just talked about EIT as an example.
Right.
And then the third component is the subsidy that's provided for those positions that were kept vacant during COVID. And those positions, we've noted to the employees, are temporary. So if the revenues do not come back, those positions would be eliminated. So the budget there's not a significant concern on our part on whether or not that money would be there to support employees that are temporary in nature. So to give you an example, our grant writers, we had two positions that are temporary in nature, because one was a ARPA manager and the other one is a grant writer. Those were created out of this program. If the revenue is not there to support them, then those positions would be eliminated. However, what we're seeing as a result of hiring for those two positions is that we are able to offset the cost of those positions by charging an administrative fee on the grants that we write. So while you look at it one way that the ARPA funding may not be there, but we're also thinking on certain positions, if they are valuable, if they're providing some sort of productivity, how can they stay here and be supported by the general fund revenue? And the examples I gave you is proving to show that some of these positions are going to be long-lasting. Same thing with the city solicitor, the third solicitor that we hired down in the revenue department. I think one of the questions Dr. Ruggles had posed before is what sort of metrics can we look at, or an ROI on assistance that this individual is providing us. It looks like in preliminary so far this year, this individual has helped us collect an additional $60,000 or $70,000 that typically wouldn't have been collected. So those are the kinds of things that we're looking at.
But the revenue is gonna increase, but your expenses are also increasing though too.
That's right.
I mean, at some point there's gonna be an imbalance.
Well,
I mean,
it's been like that. I think it's been like that every single year since I've been here for the last
right.
6 years.
But that's my fear about the ARPA money though.
Well, as I said, that ARPA money would be neutral. I don't see it affecting the budget.
It has to be neutral.
Yeah, it is.
We can only replace what we lost.
That's right. Well,
It's $10 million, and we've seen the earned income tax going up this year. We've seen admissions tax starting to rebound. Parking fees are starting to rebound. I mean, they're all rebounding. We're coming through pandemic pretty nicely.
Yeah.
And I would also add that with the ARPA money, that there are a lot of one-time projects that are going on. Say like the facade, we talked about the facade program. There's a substantial amount of money there. There are purchase of vehicles that are above and beyond what we typically would do. Lots of improvements to city parks and the like. So these are, it's not an ongoing year to year expense that we would see. We're using that money not only for city items, but also to spread out into the community.
Okay.
Any other questions on bill number 32? Roll call.
Mayor Pianto?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Milan?
No.
Mr. O'Connell?
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles?
Aye.
Bill number 33 that was introduced by Mr.
Excuse me.
I'm sorry.
We need a reason. I'm not going to let somebody vote against the budget. If there's a problem with the earned income tax, how do you expect to balance the budget?
Mayor, we had this debate ad nauseum for hours.
I don't think we had any debate.
We did actually.
We had someone on the number, but we've
Yeah, we
never
had a debate.
heard
We had a
what
debate.
what the solution is. We've never heard it.
I don't have a solution. My solution is that we don't overinflate a number that it seems improvable to, like, we can't meet it.
If you feel we can't meet it, then I need to know how you want to.
I don't have
what
the
do you
answer. Like,
expect?
they
Wanna
just
lay
told
off
they
employees.
they just told me that we just basically we're seeing an increase in EIT for next year. They just said it.
Yeah.
I just don't see how from this year to next year we're going to see that much of an increase. I just have a hard time seeing it. Nationally, wages are going up by 5% next year, and yet we're somehow showing 9 to 10%. I just have a hard time just grasping that.
I think Mr. Campos explained the paycheck inflation, and we are seeing $15 an hour being the norm today for even service industry like McDonald's. Amazon is paying up to $24, $25 an hour, and I think people are, as you notice, the food industry, especially in that lower hospitality, is having a hard time getting employees because those employees who work kitchen help and waitresses are now working in the warehouses making $23 an hour, and that is increasing our EIT.
But
I questioned. I also questioned the number, and I feel satisfied that
Okay.
the number they gave us is a number that
I have a hard time grasping it. Really, I mean, it's nothing against the administration. I just have a hard time grasping that we're budgeting for increase in wages next year of 10%, when you guys gave 3.5% next year across the board. Well, that would mean that out of however many people live in the city, you have to make this assumption that the other residents who contribute have to kind of balance that number out then. It just seems extraordinarily high. But if you're telling me that's what you guys are seeing, that's fine. My fear is if we don't hit that number, we're going to be in trouble for 2024 then.
So, as I mentioned.
no. If we don't hit that number, we're in trouble for 2023. We got to balance that budget. We certainly don't want to end up
Well,
with
for
a deficit.
2024 though.
No, for 2023. This is a 2023 budget.
Well, I think.
if
so you're-
excuse me,
Yeah, go ahead.
if in June we
Right.
find out that we're $500,000 off, we got to balance that budget. I mean, at least we should.
But Mayor, we're not doing it now though.
But we don't.
I mean, I'm not being funny. Like we're not doing it now.
We don't have a deficit this year.
No, but I'm saying, but when we see other accounts that are in deficit, like we're not
done-
transferring.
Yeah, we did. We did a transfer for gasoline, $175,000.
Right.
Mark, was the gasoline amendment? Was the budget amended for $175,000? Was that? What was that
Right, but
amount?
Mayor, we have other expenses that there's not budget. There's no money for them.
They're 175.
Yeah.
I mean,
Substantial amount of money because gasoline went up.
Right.
Oh, for this year, yeah, this year.
100%. But the other issue that we have other accounts that aren't funded yet too, that we're showing that we're expending money out of them, and there's no budget for it.
Just we're not expending money that doesn't have a budget.
But okay,
What is it?
I'm not sure that, I don't know what that is.
I don't either. So I'm asking you or Mr. Milan. I mean, I don't know.
Mayor, I know that the administration cannot expense an item that doesn't have a budget.
Exactly.
So I'm not sure how that would happen.
Louis, we go through this exercise every year. This
No, I'm
same
sorry.
exercise every year. We go through. It's like Groundhog Day. We go through this every year. You guys send a spreadsheet over. I go through the analysis, and I see these accounts that have numbers but no budget next to them. And then you guys tell me it's payroll related, and that we'll fund them then. So, I mean, we can sit here and debate this more if you'd like. This happens every year. I mean, I can't be wrong because I had the spreadsheets.
Right.
You guys give me the spreadsheet. If the spreadsheets are wrong, well then we have to discuss that on a separate meeting then, because it's your data. I ask questions.
I mean, I think that's fair, and I also know that we've had discussions with you, Mr. Milan, explaining to you that the charter allows for departmental transfers, and any intra-departmental transfers needs to come to council for approval. So sometimes on interdepartmental worksheets that you may look at, you may see items that are under budget, but the administration has the flexibility due to the charter to move funds around because of the way that our accounting is structured. So for example, we spread out employee expenses into all the departments, and that's similar to a lot of enterprise type of expense. But in some cases, when you have turnover, the lines don't necessarily match up, so you can make adjustments. And the charter is clear that as long as you present these adjustments to council, we're within our purview to make those types of adjustments. And I know we have these discussions a lot, and it does seem to be a very repetitive type of a misunderstanding, if you will, of the accounting for the city. But I do want to tell you that the by no means is the administration circumventing the charter and having expenses that are not budgeted for. We're using the tools that are given to us by the charter, and also we're using the veil of the charter to make those changes that are necessary. It is a very dynamic budget. These budgets are not static, and I do feel like we have a lot of discussions here at council that, you know, make it a very static document. I don't think any professional who works in budgets understand that it's a plan that's not set in stone, that constantly is evolving as the time goes throughout the year. And I just want to make that point because I don't want to lose it. I understand that you feel as if we have the same discussions over and over again, and that is accurate. In administration, we're constantly having the same discussions over and over again because there are problems that come up every single day, and you constantly have to manage through it, and that's why the system is set up the way it's set up.
But no one, I'm not accusing you of circumventing the charter. We get the spreadsheets from your administration. And there are numbers where there's actuals, and there's numbers where they're the same, where there's no budgeted.
Well, and some of those may be a reporting issue, and you certainly have, and I've seen times when you report it to the finance director,
Right.
and the finance director has also responded within the appropriate answer, whether if it was an error when pulling out the spreadsheet or not, and
Right.
we have that open dialogue here.
Right, and I'm not even accusing you guys of circumventing the charter. All I'm saying is, this is what you guys give us. I'm just regurgitating back to you. This is not an insult to your administration, to your team. I'm not
taking it as an insult at all.
That's fine. But from my perspective, you give us information. I question it. And yet, you tell me that we can't expense, but we do. I mean, it's I get it. It's a fluid budget. I understand that. I support that. But again, money's moving around. There's money where we spent, and there's nothing there. There's no budget amount. I mean, I can prove it.
I'd say the majority of instances where that does happen is payroll related, and we have talked about those where, say in the planning and codes department, we've specifically pointed out that we readjusted the organization, but basically the expenses haven't followed. So in total, they're okay. So all of the payroll expenses are okay, but they're not bucketed in the right buckets. So there may be instances where there is no budget, as you say, but there is an expense that hits, but it's offset in another line item where that expense is not hitting, but it was budgeted.
So in theory, according to what Louis just said, let me summarize this. So next year, in theory, what Louis is saying, finance, revenue, or actually no, let's look at an expense account, just for an argument. So under the mayor's budget, it should not exceed $398,000. Within that $398,000, you're saying, I think we all agree to this, you can move money within that $398,000, correct?
Within that
Right.
department.
I don't think I'm not questioning that.
Okay.
But where the issue is that number should stay static, correct? Throughout the year?
Well,
I mean, that's what you're saying. It should stay static.
No, I think Louis did also mention that there are budget amendments. So if we do come to council and ask for an amendment because there is
Right.
a shortage somewhere, then we need to find the money to
But that's the
offset
whole
that.
that's the holy grail number right there. So this number,
I would say I would argue that that's the starting point. In total,
Right.
the budget needs to tie
Right.
our expenses and
but
revenue.
if we go above that, there has to be an amendment to it, correct?
Correct.
Okay, that's fair.
Next item, Madam Clerk.
We have bill number 33 that was introduced by Mr. Brown, which would fix the tax rate for the year 2023.
So moved.
Second.
Moved in second, discussion on the tax rate. Roll call.
Mayor Panto?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Milan?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell?
Aye.
And Dr. Ruggles?
Aye.
We have bill number 34 that was introduced by Mr. Brown, which would amend the 2022 general fund budget.
Moved.
Second.
Moved in second, discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Milan?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell?
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles?
Aye.
And Mayor Panto?
Aye. New business, Madam Clerk.
We have bill number 35 being introduced by Mr. Milan, which would amend section in chapter 560, and it's for parking meters.
So introduced.
Bill number 36 being introduced by Mr. Brown, which would amend chapter 285 fees.
Introduced.
Bill number 37 being introduced by Mr. Milan, which would amend a section in Chapter 560 and regarding handicap parking spaces.
So introduced.
Bill number 38 being introduced by Mr. Brown, which would amend the 2022 Recreation Fund budget.
So introduced.
We have resolution being introduced by Mr. Milan, which would approve a job description for the position of Parking Operations Manager.
So moved.
Second.
Moved in second, discussion? Roll call, Madam
Mr.
Clerk.
Milan?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell?
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles?
Aye.
Mayor Pianto?
Aye.
And Mr. Brown?
Aye.
We have a resolution being introduced by Mr. Milan, which would approve the job description for the position of Office Manager within the Easton Police Department.
So moved.
Second.
Moved in second, discussion? Roll call.
Hang on a second. Hold on a minute, guys. Mr. O'Connell?
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles?
Aye.
Mayor Pianto?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Milan?
Aye.
And then I'm kind of mixed up. We have a resolution being introduced by Mr. Milan, which would approve a job description for the position of Community and Economic Development Administrator.
So moved.
Second.
Moved in second, is there discussion?
Mr. Milan?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell?
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles?
Aye.
Mayor Pianto?
Aye.
And Mr. Brown?
Aye.
We have a job resolution being introduced by Mr. Milan, approving a job description for the position of Purchasing Manager.
So moved.
Second.
Moved in second, discussion?
Just
Roll
one quick
call.
question.
Go ahead.
Does this person actually manage people?
So,
The purchasing manager, they have oversight of people? Like, do they supervise people?
We're not there yet.
Why is it called manager then? If they're not. Oh,
Manager purchasing.
does a foreman manage people? How about a foreman? Oh. Okay.
Dr. Ruggles?
aye.
Mayor Pianto?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Milan?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell?
Aye.
Resolution being introduced by Mr. Milan, approving a job description for the position of Conservation Manager.
So moved.
I think I'm skipping one.
I brought it back,
Okay.
yeah.
All right.
Sorry
Second.
about that.
Moved in second on the Conservation Manager, any discussion? Roll call.
Mayor Pianto?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Milan?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell?
Aye.
And Dr. Ruggles.
Aye.
Resolution being introduced by Mr. Milan, which would approve the 2023 Administration Benefit Package.
So moved.
Second.
Moved in second, discussion? Roll call.
Mayor Pianto?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Milan?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell?
Aye.
And Dr. Ruggles.
Aye.
Resolution also being introduced by Mr. Milan, approving the salary and wages for 2023.
So moved.
Second.
Moved in second, discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Milan?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell?
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles?
Aye.
And Mayor Pianto?
Aye.
Okay, a resolution being introduced by Mr. Milan, approving an agreement between the City of Easton and TPX Communication for the replacement of the city's current phone system.
So moved.
Second.
Moved in second, discussion? Go ahead.
This was somewhat confusing to me, but I'm looking on the very first page of the service agreement, and it says non-reoccurring and reoccurring. So are we responsible for the non-reoccurring costs? And if so, why aren't they in this resolution? I mean, I kind of read the non-reoccurring as, you know, this one time we buy a phone or whatever it is, you know, hardware type stuff. But the reoccurring is the ongoing costs in the communication. So we're budgeting, we have in here the $3,164.37 as a monthly payment, but that's just the reoccurring portion of this proposal.
Madden's, when he presented this to the directors meeting, he said we'd be saving $1,000 a month.
Louis, is your mic on?
Sorry,
It's okay.
it's confusing,
That's what I said. I
but it
started
is
off that way.
it is zeroed out. It's confusing. I don't have an answer for you, but it looks to be zeroed out. I mean, pretty clearly on the total line.
Mr. Scheer?
Yeah, it just, I mean, the way I read this, the non-recurring, which I'm assuming is the purchase of the equipment, was essentially $29,073.26, which was financed instead or it was broken down to 36 installment payments of $883.91. So you do have a recurring, non-recurring charge unless you did it in a lump sum. If you're doing it monthly, then that's what this way I read this, you're paying $83.91 for your equipment, and the $31.64.37, I guess, is the
Added to the monthly.
is the service.
That includes that.
I'm not sure what the contract, you know.
And I mean, even under the non-reoccurring, and on the total non-reoccurring, it says zero.
I suggest we table this until next meeting in January.
The problem is the expiration date,
I know of ours.
December 29th.
Well, then, can we get a resolution contingent, or pass this resolution contingent on referral to the attorneys to make sure that we're voting on what we think we're voting on?
I mean, I don't have any problem passing. I just want to
Yeah.
make sure that we're not going to get a bill for $29,000. That's all
here.
I'm worried about. But I mean, if we do down the road, then we can address it at that time. But I mean,
Yeah.
these are.
So
You know, I think I understand this now. And
Well, I'm glad that we got an attorney here to understand it.
well, but it's more math, and I would appreciate Mr. Lisinecki would concur. The way they arrange this non-recurring column in the top, they come up with the $29,073.26. They go to zero because they're basically saying that they're doing everything on a recurring basis of 22, 20, 80, 46 plus the 883.91. So that 3164.37 is your monthly charge period for everything.
Okay.
So that first column was just their odd way they're laughing at us because they're saying, wait till they bring this up and they try to figure it out. But I think that's, now that I look at it that way, that's what they mean by recurring.
Okay.
And it is the format's different because it gives a 36-month term above. But so the Cliff Notes version on this, because what you would want is the comparison, like what is this bringing to us? This will allow us to reduce our phone costs by about $9,000
So
annually.
they're using reoccurring charges for two different things.
Right.
Right.
essentially.
That's right.
Same term for two different things.
They broke it down on the right-hand side, and in other words, there's nothing up front. That's the bottom line.
So, my other question on this is, have we always paid GEDP's phone bill?
Yes.
We have. They've always been on our system. Any other questions on the resolution for TPX Communications? Madam Clerk, roll call.
Mr. Milian?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell?
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles?
Aye.
Mayor Panto?
Aye.
And Mr. Brown?
Aye.
We have a resolution being introduced by Mayor Panto in accordance with the procedures of the city's Easton Home Charter Rule. Council hereby cancels the December 28, 2022 council meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Moved in second discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Milian?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell?
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles?
Aye.
Mayor Panto?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
And Mr. Ettinger?
He's not here.
At this point, we're here, at this point in our meeting, we have public comment on any item concerning the city of Easton. Comments, questions, or concerns?
All right, need my address?
Name and address, yeah.
Yep, Tony Claypatch, 1974 Mercer Way, Easton, PA 18040.
Could you spell your last name, please?
Yeah, it's KLAPATCH.
Thank you.
So I just had a comment on the new conservation manager position. I just wanted to clarify, because I was seeing in the salary document that it's the city forester title will change to the conservation manager. Does that mean Rob Christopher is going to be the new conservation manager? Okay.
Yes.
All right. That makes sense.
Anyone else like to address city council? Mr. Rabbits, nice to see you again.
Marty Rabbits, 144 Church Street. Has anyone considered or reviews the overtime as Allentown is doing to their last year's budget? Checking out what their overtime has been burdened the city with.
I don't know. They just passed their budget this week. I don't know what it is.
No, there's an article saying they're doing a review of their overtime, checking last year's overtime. I just wondered if Easton has done that or is doing that, or
Our overtime is well within the range. It's actually lower than what it's been, except for the fire department. And we've looked at that multiple times. It's contractual. It has to do with their collective bargaining agreement.
Well, I would say internally too, the mayor, after every event that we have, asks all participating departments for their overtime figures.
Right.
And they're usually submitted to Mark, just to give you an example of some of the operational stuff, like the behind the scenes stuff. Garlic Fest, Bacon Fest, you name it. They're submitted to the finance director, Mark Lesnecki. Once he totals them up, he provides them to myself and the mayor, and then we look at the offsetting revenue as well. At the end of the year, I will tell you that the police chief is the first one to tell us how much money he saved the city in overtime. So much so that we actually reduced it for next year's budget by about $60,000. Fire has been an issue, but we know that that's been due to a lot of injuries, et cetera, that have been ongoing, and which creates staffing issues. But the short answer is yes, we consistently look at it. I'm not sure what Allentown's doing, but I know that we constantly are talking about the budget.
So they allocate $100,000 to do a forensic audit. That's what he's talking about.
Okay.
That's all.
Anyone else from the public like to address city council on agenda or non-agenda items? Anyone else? Yes, you want to address city council? No, it's okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Please just state your name and address, please.
Vivian Galeb, 351 Rock Street, Easton, PA 18042.
Could you spell your last name, please?
GHALEB, as in Bob.
Thank you.
I'm gonna try to sum this up because it will take a long time, so I'll try my best.
You got 5 minutes.
Okay. This is basically just a last incident that happened, but I've been getting tortured for almost like 10, 12 years. The reason why I didn't come up and say anything is because I didn't want any retaliation or revenge. And who specifically is targeting me and torturing me is the codes department in the city of Easton. And I mean, I'm talking 10, 12 years, so it cannot be just a mistake, and it cannot be that they're just following code laws, because it is a series of events which are going on nonstop every couple months. The last thing that happened actually happened through the finance department, but I truly believe from my experience with them all these years that the codes department is behind it. So the business privilege tax was due in April, and I paid that. In August 10th, I happened to just arrive overseas because I had some surgeries to do, and by coincidence, or maybe it's intended, the day I arrive, I get a note or an email from the Easton portal saying your business license is suspended. I was shocked to find that out, and after a couple hours, not even, I start getting calls from my tenants saying that there's placards on their door saying use forbidden, closed, with a letter attached to it saying, from the attorney saying cease and desist, your business license is suspended, and it lists my rental properties, which made every tenant know about the other rental properties. Of course, the tenants freaked out. I don't think that's a pleasant situation for a tenant to see a placard on their door saying, closed, use forbidden. That means you gotta be homeless, you just have to get up and go. If you have kids, if you have health issues, it doesn't matter. We are here, we're the code department, and we could just torture you and threaten your livelihood when the codes department is supposed to be concerned about health and safety and the well-being of people. But I don't think that's what's been happening with me, at least, and I'm sure a lot of people that I've discussed this with, for the last 10 years. It seems like this placard, closed, use forbidden, is just a toy. Like a little kid would use his water gun. They just use it anytime they please. They take that placard, slam it on the door, and it doesn't matter if people have a heart attack from it because somebody's telling them, listen, you're gonna be homeless. Anyway, I'm gonna sum it up because it's 5 minutes. So anyway, after the tenants freak out and call me, and I am overseas, I called to find out what's going on after a series of calls, and mind you, I'm overseas where I'm paying $3.80 a minute. So I called, I had to talk to the finance director, and he informed me that I did not pay my business privilege tax, and hence why they have suspended my business license, and so they have suspended my rental registration, which all has been paid, and hence why the code has the total right to just go out to every rental property that I have and place the placards on the door, because they don't have more important issues to deal with in the city. I don't know what happened to something called a penalty or a late fee. I mean, obviously, if you're late and paying something, taxes, Easton taxes, business privilege tax, business license, rental registration, you get a late fee and a penalty. I did not know you could just go and torture people and just threaten their livelihood. And mind you, I did pay, so we will get to that point. So I told him that I did pay. He said, we don't have records. I said, no problem. I will send another payment. We are talking about $150, $120. So I don't think I'm going to quibble over that, even if I have to pay it again, although there is a mistake. But I mean, for $150, that's what they did to me and my tenants. Anyway, I had to dig in my file. I had to ask somebody to dig in my files because I'm overseas, and they could not find the copy of the business privilege tax that was paid. So I had to beg the finance director to let me send him another payment. But he said he would not take the other payment and the form unless it's attached with the Schedule E from my income tax. I tried to get the Schedule E, but being overseas, the IRS website would not open up. And that's something common. It is blocked for anybody overseas. You cannot open it. I tried to even call the IRS. I couldn't. So I had no access to my Schedule E because I'm not here and nobody knows how to go through my files and find it. I literally had to beg him to please allow me to make a payment, and when I come here, I will give him a copy of my Schedule E, and again, knowing that I paid it. So after a series of calls that cost me hundreds of dollars, and literally begging him and saying, please, my tenants are paying the price here. If you want to give me penalty, late fees, you can put as much as you want penalty and late fees, but don't do that to my tenants. He finally agreed after talking to the city solicitor and having a series of calls, because this seems to be a very major problem, over $150. So finally he agreed, and he said, okay, we will take your payment and we will give you only 2 weeks. And again, I had to beg him to remove the placards off the tenants' doors. So that happened. I sent the payment with my mom, who doesn't speak English and doesn't drive. She had to take the bus and come here to make a payment just to show good intention. He took the payment and kept it in an envelope. I had to come back because he only gave me 2 weeks when I was supposed to stay overseas longer because I had 2 surgeries scheduled. So I had to buy another return ticket since I couldn't use the original return ticket of my flight. I had to buy a return ticket, which cost a lot because it was last minute, to come here and take care of this issue. And then, of course, I had to buy another round trip ticket to go back and get my surgeries done. When I came back, I found the form that it was paid. So right away, I came to the city asking to speak to the finance director. When I saw him, I said, this is paid, and here's a copy of it, if you would like. I showed him the copy of the business privilege tax form that is stamped by the city of Easton, and it says paid on April 11th, 2022. And I said, this caused me a terrible inconvenience, not just me and my tenants. I was going through health issues. I had to fly back to take care of this. My tenants flipped, and they were calling me names. They were angry, and they have every right to. I don't think I was upset at that. They have every right to be upset when they knew they're going to be homeless. All this happened, and all the inconvenience when these were paid. So I told him, you might have to compensate me for all this because this is a lot of expenses I went through. But at that point, I was really upset, and I wanted to go back for my surgery, so I did not dwell on the topic much. I let it go, and then I went back overseas to do my surgeries. Then just recently, a couple weeks ago, I'm trying to register a new property for a rental registration. It was my home, and I'm turning it into a rental. So this is brand new, and the codes office know that. So I apply online as it is right now, and then the codes office asks me to pay the registration fee. I pay the registration fee. All of a sudden, I get a message from the person in the finance department, Shawnita, and she says, no, you may not move forward with this property because you have not paid your business privilege tax. It says you are not in compliance with the code, which states any taxpayer who is in default of payment of tax due hereunder shall be refused the license until such tax is paid in full. Submit your 2022 business privilege tax with corresponding IRS forms and incurred penalty and interest fees. So right away, I email Mr. Listenicki, the finance director, and I tell him, what is going on here? I came to you and I showed you the form that shows that the business privilege taxes were paid. And he emailed me back, acknowledging that he did see the form stamped by the city of Easton, but they don't have any proof of a payment, which kind of shocked me. I don't understand where the common sense here. So he's admitting that he saw a stamp which says City of Easton paid April 11th, 2022. Yet he's saying we don't have proof of your payment. I mean, this could be seen in many different ways. This could be seen as corruption. This could be seen as money missing from the city of Easton. This could be seen in many different ways. There's a payment made and there's a stamp. And I don't think you can get that stamp outside the city building or maybe buy it off of eBay. I'm sorry if I'm making jokes. That's just because I don't want to get too emotional here and let this affect my health as it's been for the longest time. So he literally told me in his email that he acknowledges that I showed him the form, but they do not have any record of an actual payment being made. And I will give you the email so you could see that. So I had to email him back and say, I don't understand how there's a stamp and you're saying you don't have records of this. Nobody's going to give me a stamp in the city of Easton and the finance department. The clerk is not going to do that if they don't receive the payment. And it's not on me to find proof for the payment. And if the payment is cash, obviously there is no other proof except that stamp. Because when you pay cash, that's all you get. You don't take a picture of yourself making the payment. You just pay in cash and they stamp that for you, and that is your proof that you paid. So up until now, this has not been resolved, when it's supposed to be the other way around. It's supposed to be an apology. It's supposed to be compensation for all the expenses I went through, for all the torture I went through. Yet this is being turned the other way. I'm here in a position where I have to prove more than a stamp that something has been paid. And in addition to all this, my tenants were the ones that went through all this torture and all this pain because of this. And I mean, you might look at it and tell me, okay, Ms. Caleb, maybe it's a mistake. Mistakes happen, we're humans here at the City of Easton. We make mistakes. Sure, mistakes happen. But when a mistake happens, You put a penalty on someone. You give them a late fee. You say, hey, listen, we're going to be putting late fees if you don't pay this. You don't just go slam placards on tenants' doors saying, closed use forbidden, you need to vacate, and a letter of cease and desist where the tenants were freaking out. I don't think this is also a mistake. I don't think this is common for a respectful city where you pay your taxes and you're trying your best to be a good landlord, to be a good homeowner, to have your taxes being paid to someone in the codes office or finance department. But again, I do believe this is more the codes office, to just be incompetent and unprofessional and just place placards on the door saying you have to vacate immediately when this is people's livelihood here. If there is a mistake where they missed a payment, which is a big mistake, I think it should be handled much different. It could be a late fee or a penalty. It cannot be messing with people's livelihood. And later on, after you presenting the proof, also somebody telling you, we still need more proof than a stamp. And sorry, we're not going to offer you any compensation. What we did is perfectly normal. We could just go out and slam these placards anytime we feel like, because we are the codes office. We could just torture people any way we like. I'm sorry if I went longer. There's many, many, many more issues, but I will stop right here. This is one example of hundreds throughout more than 10 years. Maybe I'll bring out the other issues in the next meeting. I'm sorry. And sorry for the smile. Again, this is just for me not to break down, because if I don't smile and act like this, I'll probably be breaking down right now.
Mark, you want to address this?
Sure. Over the, I'd say over the probably the last several years, we have had several meetings with Ms. Gallup about various issues that, for the most part, we have resolved. This one was a lingering one that one of our revenue agents was trying to get the appropriate documentation and payment for the BPT, the supporting documentation. We weren't able to get that. I believe that we have a number of email exchanges between us reflecting the requests for that information. I believe the original payment that shows that there was the stamped paid, I believe the money was returned to Ms. Gallup, and so basically since that time we've been trying to get this resolved and get the appropriate documentation.
Why would it have been returned?
Because the appropriate documentation wasn't provided.
Okay.
Right.
Excuse me if I could stop him for 1 second. The money that I paid in August was returned, but this stamp is from April. This was paid in April. In August, I sent you another payment. You kept that in an envelope. When I came in September and showed you the form stamped, you gave me that money back in the envelope. But this stamp is from April. This was paid in April and not returned, obviously, because there's no reason it should be returned. This is a payment.
So, just real quick, are there monies owed? Is that what we're debating right now?
We have asked for proof that payment was made. Yes, there is. As was said, I did acknowledge that there is a document that was stamped, but we don't believe that we received payment with that, and so we've asked for.
Why would you stamp it then?
I understand, but the records that we have did not show. So,
well,
our
okay,
revenue.
I mean,
Okay,
that's our fault then.
Okay.
Wow. So there's money missing. And I mean, we're literally saying, oh, we don't know where it is. So this is corruption here. So maybe somebody's stealing money in the
Who
city
made
of
the
Easton.
transaction?
I'm sorry.
Who completed the transaction?
I believe that it may have been one of the clerks up front, and I don't know that it got back to the revenue agent, and so that's where the hang-up was, and we're not sure if the documentation was just stamped at the time that there was basically just saying that it was received, but I don't have the.
Does the stamp say it's paid?
Yes.
It says paid on it.
Yes.
Then I'm not sure. Like, why is it on her then?
Exactly. It's on me when I have a stamp from April 11th saying paid.
May I make a suggestion to you, please?
It's $121.
Thank you. How do you pay for these? You pay cash?
Sometimes cash, sometimes by check.
Would you just do me a favor from now on and not pay cash?
So that deletes the corruption that happened
Well,
here?
I'm not.
That deletes the incompetence?
I'm not corroborating that claim.
Sure.
All I'm saying is, just for records,
Sure,
if you can just provide a check or a credit card,
sure,
I think a lot of this problem will go away then.
sure.
That's all.
And actually, I'm going to tell you right now, and I didn't tell Mr. Lisiniki, I did pay this by check. But I did not show them the check because it is not on me to show the
All right,
check.
that's fine.
It is on them.
No, that's not,
It is
that's not
on them
true,
to find
Vivian.
that payment.
Vivian, that is true. If somebody's asking you to prove a payment, I show checks many times.
I don't have to, because I have a stamp, Mayor.
Well, you
I don't
have
need
a
to help
stamp
them
if
with
they're
their
asking for proof of
incompetence.
payment.
I don't need to help them with their incompetence, Mayor.
And you-
I don't need to help them
this
because
is an
they're
issue
unprofessional.
of all the
This
issues-
could be corruption. I could take this to an attorney and he could sue the city of Easton, but this is so not me. I've been getting tortured by the codes department and the city of Easton for 10 years, but I don't want to be the one that sues. I'm not going to sue a city where I live, where I do business, where I do stuff. This is not the kind of person I am, but trust me, this
May I
is a
say
good
something?
lawsuit.
You constantly brought up codes today. This has nothing to do with codes.
No, because the
It
biggest
has
problem.
nothing to do
No,
with
the
codes.
disaster happened
It
with
has
codes.
nothing to do with codes. This is with the finance department. So please don't talk about your issues with the codes department.
I will answer you what this has to do with codes, Mayor, if you allow me. So if this was just from the finance department saying, Ms. Galeb, you have not paid, we are going to put late fees and penalties and whatever, then I would have resolved it with them. But when codes goes out and places placards on my doors, for me, this is where the disaster happened. The disaster is not like, oh, we can't find the payment, so when you come back, you either got to show us a payment or pay penalty. The disaster is placing placards on tenants' doors saying, closed, use forbidden, you need to vacate. This is the disaster according to me, and I'm sure according to anybody that has common sense. Resolving a payment between me and the finance department is okay. We can resolve it. I could show them proof. If they're mistaken, they'll say, sorry, we're mistaken. If they didn't get a payment, they will say, sorry, you got to pay a late fee and penalty. No problem. But you don't go placing placards on people's doors saying you got to vacate. This is the disaster.
For $121.
Exactly.
So we had been asking for this proof for several months.
Thank you, Mr.
And-
Ruggers.
And we're not getting anywhere. So that was the
I
question
don't
was.
understand why.
Okay.
It was in the same day they sent the
I don't
code
understand
officers
why-
to place the placards on the doors.
I don't understand why that document right there isn't proof.
Yes, but I don't have it on me here.
Okay, can you,
Why
It's not on me to prove it.
I understand.
sorry?
Just,
Why isn't
Just-
that document?
just to resolve this.
But this is not how you resolve this. I need
Right.
compensation
But-
here. I need a big apology. I need the codes department to back off and stop torturing me because this is one issue. And I'm planning to come every 2 weeks and bring you an issue. And trust me, they're all as good as this.
Vivian, listen,
As good as this.
with all due respect, two wrongs don't make a right here.
Right. I didn't do anything wrong.
I'm not, but you not showing the check just exacerbate the problem.
Okay, but Mr. Milan, if I paid cash, then I wouldn't have a check. Then that stamp would be my proof.
And that would be your.
We could
word
just
against-
imagine I paid cash and this is my
That
proof.
check, that cash would be, that receipt is your proof that you paid that amount of money.
Right.
But what's not there is the backup information to prove that that's how much you owe. Maybe you owe more. Maybe you owe less.
No, this is exactly what I owe because I fill out the form and we're not arguing what I owe because if they think I
No,
owe
we
more,
are
then they
arguing.
can tell me. No, we're arguing that
Portion
this
of- that's a
amount was
portion of it
not
as well.
paid, Mayor.
May I
We're not
say-
arguing
Vivian,
the
let me
amount.
just say that one of the things we did back in the 80s was required proof of income. Businesses have to give us the front page of their
And I did.
IRS, and you
And I
have to give
did.
us the Schedule
With
E.
that form, I attached Schedule E.
Oh,
I
okay.
did. And it matches Schedule E exactly, Mayor. And again, if we're arguing the amount and they want more or less, no problem.
Jeremy,
we're
you wanna address this?
arguing that it wasn't paid.
No?
May I just suggest that, the whole purpose of the comments is to bring to your attention issues. I think it's been brought to the attention. It's something that internally administration would look into. Council members are aware of it. And if this isn't a matter, and why Mr. Clark will not address this is because the city has been involved with litigation for an extensive amount of time, and we could have a long conversation about the merits and the time that the city has expended. But that's not the purpose for tonight. I think it's been a very interesting, informative issue that administration should look into. And if there are other issues that the citizen would like to present, every meeting, that's fine, but we should restrict it to the 5 minutes and do further investigations as if merited.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else like to address City Council on any item about the comments, concerns, or questions about the City of Easton? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
I make the motion to adjourn.
Second.
Moved in second to adjourn. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Mr. O'Connell?
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles?
Aye.
Mayor Panto?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
And Mr. Milan?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Council.